What's going on, guys? It is another Wednesday night. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is March 11th, 2026. I'm the Solomonster. You know, this Sunday, rare Sunday pay-per-view, AEW Revolution in Los Angeles. Tonight was the final edition of Dynamite. Final chance to sell you on Revolution. And I thought it was a little curious when they were advertising a press conference. That was the big thing that they were advertising for this show. So I thought, well, maybe they're going to do something in the ring, and they're going to have a podium and chairs set up in the ring in front of all the fans. Like, what does that mean? You're going to have a press conference on the show. Well, we found out what they meant because that's what they closed the show with tonight. MJF and Hangman Page, they have their Texas Death Match coming up on Sunday for the AEW World Championship, but tonight they had a press conference that was not in front of the fans in the arena, which did not seem to please the fans very much if you were listening, keeping an ear out. Look, I do not want to fault them for trying something different. I'm all for trying different things, whether it's WWE or AEW. I feel like so often we get a lot of the same shit. So I don't want to fault them for trying something different. They did something different. It didn't work. Don't ever do it again. Consider it a lesson learned. This did not work. I know what they were going for as your closing go-home segment here on this show. I thought it was a fail. I think there were other ways that you could have gotten to the big pull-apart brawl that we got there at the end between Hangman and MJF. So we'll get into what was involved here in this segment. Again, I could hear the fans. Some contingent of fans, anyway. They were getting very restless, and they were either booing or they were chanting boring. Maybe both. I don't know. At different points during this press conference, got to put that in quotes, press conference. Yeah, I mean, as closing segments go, I thought this one was pretty lame. But again, we got to the same point in the end where Hangman tried to kill MJF by giving him a dead eye on a barbed wire board. So if you're wondering what kind of match we're going to get on Sunday, I mean, you already know, Texas Death, right? If you've seen one Texas Death match in this company, then you know exactly what to expect. It's going to be violent. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be gory. There's going to be lots of weapons and barbed wire and staple guns and God knows what else. But MJF was able to scurry away and live to fight another day. And Hangman, again, if he loses on Sunday, he can never again challenge for the AEW World Championship, even though I have pointed out a very, I think, simple way around this stipulation for when Hangman does lose on Sunday, which is that he could always win the Casino Gauntlet at All In. And that way he will guarantee himself a future shot at the AEW World Championship. See, it's a simple workaround. It didn't exist when Cody Rhodes did this back in 2019. But now they have the benefit of the briefcase, the contract. But no, I do not think that Hangman Adam Page is leaving Los Angeles as the AEW World Champion. No matter how hard they try to convince me, until I see it with my own two eyes, I will not believe it. And frankly, if it did happen, I think it would be a mistake. I think it would be a big mistake to take that title off of MJF right now. We also on this show had potentially the TV match of the year, which is kind of funny because these two men went out there at the end of last year and had what may have been the television match of the year. This time, though, it was for the TNT Championship. It was Kyle Fletcher defending his title against Speedball Mike Bailey. And they went out and they had an excellent match, even though it was marred by a lame finish. Finish wasn't very good. Actually, we had a couple of lame finishes on this show. This was not the only one. There were at least two. Takeshita slowly seems to be moving away a little bit more from the Don Callis family, which is good. This is like a slow-moving glacier that we've seen for a while now. You can see where it's going, but it's taking a while to get there. But I think they moved the ball maybe another yard down the field towards the eventual split between Takeshita and the Don Callis family. And we got a handful of matches added to the card on Sunday, not only to the main pay-per-view, but to the 0-hour pre-show as well. And so what we'll do at the end of the review here, I will run down the entire updated Revolution card, go through the entire thing, give my updated predictions. We'll save that for the end. As far as the show tonight, it didn't feel like there was a whole lot that happened that was terribly important. You got some good wrestling on the show. You had the press conference thing at the end, which I just thought was a dud and didn't really work. But we had a couple of matches, at least on this show, that I thought were fun and that I enjoyed, not just Fletcher and Speedball. There was a women's match on this show with Willow, Nightingale, and Persephone, which I thought was good. I enjoyed it. I would not mind seeing these two women working again in the future. I think this was the first time they've ever been in the ring together, one-on-one, in a singles match. And remember, Persephone has a contract with them. She's got one of those dual contracts, so she's technically under contract to AEW. I'd like to see her more often. She just beat Mercedes the other day to win the CMLL Women's Championship. Although her title was not on the line tonight. It was only Willow's title. And actually, both of Willow's titles will be on the line this Sunday. She's going to be pulling double duty on that Revolution card. We'll talk about all of it. This is your AEW Dynamite review. Thank you for joining me here on yet another Wednesday night. Like and subscribe. We are approaching 91,000 subscribers. So the faster you sub, the faster we'll get there. Hit that like button as well. Super chats are open. I will be reading all of your messages if and as they come in. I know we had some that came in before I went live. And also a quick shout out for those of you who may have missed it. The latest episode of the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. Episode number 5 is up right now. It went up yesterday. Actually earlier than usual. Yesterday on the Ariel Helwani Show podcast feed. Thank you for all of the great feedback. So if you missed it, that will be on your docket tomorrow of stuff to listen to on your Thursday. But thank you for all of the great feedback so far. We're 5 episodes deep. We got number 6 on the way. It's been good. Fun times. Let's bring up the wheel. See how many likes we need to be the booker tonight. We know how things go on Wednesdays sometimes, but we're gonna shoot for the heavens here and see what we land on. Is this going to be a be the booker night or not? I don't know. We'll see. If you want it bad enough. If you want it bad enough, you're going to have to work for it. 530 likes on a Wednesday. Stranger things have happened. Got some work to do on that, but that's the goal. 530 likes minimum if we are to do Be the Booker. I don't know where Excalibur was. I can't say I was terribly disappointed. I think Ian Riccaboni is great. So, hey, if Excalibur wants to take a week off here and there, he's got my permission. He was not on the show tonight. Tony Schiavone was on play-by-play. He was joined by Ian Riccaboni and Bryan Danielson because they were in San Jose. And I think at this point, Danielson is only appearing typically on the shows that are out west because he lives that way. And I know he's talked about when he travels, it really wreaks havoc on his neck, and his neck pain and discomfort flares up. So they were out on the West Coast, so he was on the show tonight, but he was also the guest of honor, MC, whatever you want to call him, the master of ceremonies for the press conference at the end of the show later. So that was your commentary team. And since they were out west, since they were in San Jose, guess who showed up? He popped up on the show tonight. A wild Dave Meltzer appears. We got an Uncle Dave jump scare. There he is. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the great one that we have on screen here. Plus Okada as well. Okada is there too. Yes, Dave Meltzer was on the show, which I'm sure had a lot of people talking about everything but the show because they have Meltzer derangement syndrome here. They can't stop talking about the guy, but there he is, enjoying his AEW Dynamite tonight. Say goodbye. So they opened the show with Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli against Konosuke Takeshita and Hechicero. Yet another battle between members of the Death Riders and members of the Don Callis family. In this ongoing feud here with these two factions, Takeshita was sporting a black eye from the match he had on Collision with Claudio. And we got a preview here of Revolution as Moxley and Takeshita, they went at it. Moxley wanted a gotch-style pile driver. Takeshita, though, escaped into a power drive knee. Both men were down. This was late in the match. Claudio and Hechicero, they were going at it when Hechicero almost collided with the referee, Mike Posey, in the corner, but he stopped short. He put on the brakes. But then when he turned around, Claudio poked him in the eye. And then he uppercutted him, and then he cradled him for the win. And the fans booed that finish. They did not like that finish. This was a weird one. Because this whole fucking thing is weird, but it was weird because the fans, they clearly like Moxley and they clearly like Takeshita, even though they are both part of what is still a heel faction. Death Riders are a heel faction. Don Callis family is a heel faction, but they love Takeshita and they love Moxley, and typically they will boo all of the other members. Now there are exceptions to that, but by and large, the rest of them, Wheeler Yuta and Garcia and them, they get booed. So it's been weird since day one when they started cheering Moxley and they didn't split him away from the Death Riders. It's still weird. But yes, the finish was not one that the fans were happy with. Now, when it was over, the remaining members of the Callis family, the ones who were there anyway, they hit the ring to put a beat down on the Death Riders. Lance Archer showed up. He even took down Marina Shafir with a shoulder tackle. They tried to get Takeshita to take Moxley's head off with a steel chair. They were holding Moxley. And they gave him the chair, and Takeshita wouldn't do it. He was thinking about it, but he just couldn't bring himself to do it, and he threw the chair out of the ring. And so the other members of the Callis family here, they were very upset about this. What are you doing? And Takeshita was trying to explain to them, I'm going to do this on my own. I don't need this. So Don Callis can see things are breaking down here. He comes over, and he's trying to calm the situation down, and he's saying, leave, let's go to the back, go to the back. The match was okay. I got to tell you, I am tired of all of these revolving combinations of the Death Riders against the Callis family. We've seen a lot of different combinations of this now for many, many weeks. And at this point, it's time to wrap it up. It's time to wrap things up. And hopefully that will happen now coming out of Sunday when we get Moxley and Takeshita, no time limit, one-on-one for the Continental title. I will say I do like that we are getting closer. I hope, to Takeshita breaking away from the Callis family. Now, there have been teases of this before. Obviously, he doesn't get along with Okada. Okada doesn't like him. So it's been building for a while, but the babyface turn is on the horizon. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen before he has the match with Okada or if it's going to happen coming out of the match with Okada. I think it should happen before. But I also don't see the match happening until we get to Wembley. I think that's what this is all building to. I think this is building to, again, champion against champion, Takeshita and Okada. And that would be the end of August, which is still quite a ways off. If I'm right. And they're holding off until then to do the match. But I think the split should happen before then. So at least we took another little small step in that direction tonight. Now we had Renee Paquette backstage with the TBS champion, Willow Nightingale, and the new CMLL Women's World Champion, Persephone. Oh my. As Nightingale said, this is a match that she's been waiting for a while. And both of them were congratulating the other for beating Mercedes Moné. Persephone said that she hit Mercedes harder than Willow did. And Willow said, well, I hope you hit me even harder tonight. I think I can take it. Elsewhere, Don Callis was backstage hyping up Kyle Fletcher before his upcoming TNT title defense. MJF interrupts, and he tells Fletcher, I want you to beat the shit out of that dollar store karate kid for kicking me in the face last week. Talking about Mike Bailey. Fletcher got up in his face. He wasn't happy about being spoken to like that. And he said, I don't know who you think you are, Maxwell. I don't know who you think you're talking to. But I don't take orders from you. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it for myself. So then MJF just ignores him, looks over at Callis and says, hey, you got to tell your boys how to talk to the world champion. And then he walks off and Fletcher tells Callis, we better not be working for that guy. And Callis just laughed it off. But that led into the TNT Championship match, with Kyle Fletcher putting his title on the line against Speedball Mike Bailey, 1/3 of the now former Trios champions, as they will be going for the belts again on Sunday at Revolution. There was no Kevin Knight on the show, by the way, which is very interesting because I just got done talking about all the television time they've devoted to Kevin Knight, and he's had multiple matches on these shows now for several weeks, and he was nowhere to be found on the show tonight. But this was the rematch. Fletcher, Speedball, the rematch from the Continental Classic, where these two guys went out there on a random episode of Dynamite in December, and they tore the house down, and they had one of the best television matches of the entire year. Now they're running it back, only this time there's a championship on the line. And having seen the match, so far, it's in the running for television match of the year in 2026 as well. I'm not going to run through everything they did here because there's no point in doing so. You should all go out of your way to watch this match. If I had one thing to recommend on this show, this would be it. But here's the Cliff Notes version. Ahead of a commercial break, they were actually out on the apron. Fletcher was looking for a snake eyes into the corner. Bailey, though, countered into a poison rana on the apron. Both men were down. Fans were going nuts as they cut to a break. Shout out to that crowd, by the way, in San Jose. A very spirited crowd tonight. Always good to hear a crowd that's loud and invested. I don't care how big or small it is. You want to hear them make a lot of noise. We haven't been getting a lot of that lately on certain shows, so it's nice when we actually get it. Later on, Fletcher went for a brainbuster. Bailey, though, slipped out, and he applied a sleeper hold. And he attempted to transition into an armbar. Fletcher escaped. Bailey, at that point, Fletcher was able to power him up, drop him with a power bomb to escape. They fought over near the corner, and Bailey delivered a poison rana from the top rope and followed that up with a roundhouse kick, very close near fall. Bailey lined up for another kick. Fletcher delivered a Michinoku driver, also very close near fall. So we got the 3-minute time call, right? 3 minutes left here in this TNT title match. Bailey missed the ultimate weapon from the middle rope. Okada showed up at this point, and he had a screwdriver. You know, when I showed you that shot before, you saw Okada. I'll put it back up here on the screen. You see there's Okada, and there's, of course, Dave Meltzer, and you see the screwdriver. You see the screwdriver there in Okada's hand. Look at this picture. It looks like Dave, for a moment, thought about swiping the screwdriver out of Okada's hand. He's staring at the screwdriver. I think his evil thoughts were intruding on his mind here, and he was thinking about maybe reaching over and trying to make the save, but he was able to restrain himself. But as you can see, Okada showed up with a screwdriver, and he distracted the referee. Mark Davis then showed up. He fed the TNT title belt to Fletcher, who blasted Bailey in the head with it, and then he quickly picked him up and delivered a brain buster for the win to retain the championship. Bryan Danielson said that he wanted Bailey to get a rematch so that he can get a fair shot. I wouldn't mind them running it back again, so you can count me in. You know, they work a million miles an hour, and I know that may not be everyone's thing. It's not always my thing either. These two, though, they work really well together. They know how to go in there and have a fast-paced, exciting wrestling match and some very convincing near falls in the process. And in this case, when you have the time limit, which I guess they had in their first match too, and you hear that there's, 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left, a minute left, it adds to the drama down the stretch, when you have you're constrained by a time limit. And again, second time now, the fans always go nuts for it. So I thought this was an excellent match with a shitty finish. That's the best way to describe it. An excellent match with a shit finish. It made sense for what they were trying to do, but again, it's a lame finish. It might have been necessary, but it's a lame finish. Kyle was not losing. We knew Kyle wasn't losing, and look, Speedball's in the trios match on Sunday, so they were trying to put more heat on the heels. And now Speedball is going to want to get revenge. When they show up on Sunday, he was this close from winning the championship. In fact, backstage a little bit later, Speedball was interviewed backstage. He was very upset. Then he says that he can make excuses, but that's not who he is. So he needs to look forward and not back. Revolution, he said the Don Callis family will get exactly what they deserve. We got another standby match in the middle of the show. Another standby match with Brody King. This is his gimmick now. And he was in street clothes because he wasn't even ready to wrestle tonight. He had been searching high and low all day for Swerve Strickland and couldn't find him. And then he was told, hey, you got a match. So Brody King came out against some poor job guy. The bell sounded. Poor job guy got wrecked with a lariat and then a gonzo bomb, and that was it. So you're going to need to trot another standby match out because this one didn't go very long. So when it was over, Brody is outside. He's high-fiving fans as he's leaving, and one of them, in a hoodie, wraps a chain around his neck. And of course, it ended up being Swerve Strickland. And he continued choking him with the chain in the ring until Brody snapped the chain in half with his bare hands. And the look on Swerve's face, it was a look of a man who knew that he was fucked. He knew that his luck had turned. And he went to go bail. He got dropped with a back suplex. Big cannonball in the corner. Brody grabbed the chain. He started choking Swerve out on the apron with it. Prince Nana comes up from behind Brody and he's throwing these weak shots. And Brody is more just annoyed by this than anything else. But it just provided enough of a distraction for Swerve to snap his arm, really his wrist, over his shoulder. And then he was able to scamper off. And it was the same wrist Bryan Danielson told us that has been broken in the past. So perhaps setting up a story point for their match on Sunday. I guess we'll see if the arm and the wrist is going to be a focus. Very basic angle otherwise. I mean, again, nothing that we haven't seen from these two before. I'm already interested in seeing it. I'm excited to see the match. I'm excited mostly probably to see a match that wasn't even promoted on the show tonight, which is Andrade El Idolo and Bandito. But those are two matches I'm looking forward to on Sunday. What they did here, I mean, it didn't really do much to change that. You know, Swerve cannot well go in there and lose to Brody. Really, I mean, if he's going to be next in line, which I presume he is, to challenge for the World Championship, possibly a Dynasty, then he shouldn't be losing. But he shouldn't be losing anyway, whether he's challenging for the title next month or not. If nothing else, he shouldn't be losing until Kenny Omega comes back and gets his revenge for what Swerve did to him. So, I mean, I hate to beat Brody because he already lost one big match to MJF, but it's just not the right outcome here. You know, Swerve is the one that they're building up as a heel to eventually challenge for the championship. So you kind of see where it's going on Sunday. And when the segment was over here, it kind of felt like that's the direction that they're leaning towards. So after this, we had Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy against the Dogs. David Finlay and Gabe Kidd. They are the Dogs now. David Finlay, of course, made his debut on the show last week. He made his choice. No longer a free agent. He is now all elite for multiple years. Danielson said Finlay despises his father for never winning a world championship. Well, now we know, I guess, why he didn't show up on NXT this week side by side with his dad. I guess that explains everything. So Cassidy made a hot tag to Darby, who hit some coffin splashes. He low-bridged Gabe Kidd to the floor, then he caught Finlay with a springboard coffin splash. Kidd returned. He got trapped in a scorpion deathlock. Finlay was able to break that up. Code Red by Darby, though, got blocked. And so as he's sitting on Finlay's back, right, and this Code Red has just been blocked, here comes Gabe Kidd with this fucking great lariat. Just takes his head off. Just fucking wrecked him with it. So as Finlay was posing in the corner, Cassidy was able to hit a stun dog. Darby followed with a Code Red finally. Darby and Orange, they hit double dives outside on both dogs. As Darby placed Gabe Kidd on a chair, he connected with a missile drop kick off the top rope. Cassidy signaled for an orange punch. He got blasted, though, from behind by Clark Connors, who came from the crowd with a tire iron. He hit him with a tire iron. Darby rolled Kidd back inside, but he missed the coffin drop. Finlay was in with a backbreaker across the knee, followed by a Dominator. And then Kidd came over for a leaping pile driver to win it for the Dogs. I still want to call them War Dogs, but I guess now they're officially the Dogs. See, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a bunch of lame finishes on this show. in the opening match, we had Claudio with an eye poke, okay, and then a fucking cradle, a roll-up. And then in the TNT title match, we had Okada coming out with a screwdriver and Mark Davis with a belt shot, or to hand the belt to Fletcher for a belt shot. And then here in this match, we had, what went down here. So this kind of came one right after the other. And I just thought that, I don't know, pretty fucking lame. We go from all that to a tire iron. Am I supposed to be excited by this? But the dogs win, which is good because they had to win here. They're brand new. You can't be beating them. You just put them together as a trio. You can't be beating them. When the match was over, Darby got tossed outside. Clark Connors threw Cassidy in the ring where he planted him with a spear. But here comes Roderick Strong. Now, if you remember, Roddy walked out on Orange Cassidy a number of weeks ago. He didn't want to have anything to do with him. He didn't want him in the conglomeration. He just doesn't like him. So what's going to happen now? Roddy walks out, and he teased taking out Cassidy. Instead, he threw Cassidy head first into Finlay, and he took out the rest of the dogs, so it was a swerve. Darby recovered. He threw his skateboard at Gabe Kidd. Clark Connors got dropped with an end of heartache. Strong stared down Cassidy, offered his hand. He pulled him up, and they high-fived each other. So seemingly, for the time being, all is well. We'll see if that lasts. As far as Finlay's debut, this was really nothing special. He looked fine. To be honest with you, week 2, and he kind of just blended in as just another guy, which is likely the kind of role that he's going to have for a while on the show until they decide to sort of rotate people out of that upper part of the card. And maybe they'll focus on him at some point. They'll have him challenging for a championship of some kind. There's plenty of them to choose from. Yeah, there's plenty of belts for him to challenge for. But I don't know, for someone who just got introduced, I don't want to say that it's falling completely flat, but again, just felt like another guy. And it's week 2. First match. But at least they won. They had to win. And they have added a new match to Revolution. It will be Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, and Roderick Strong against all 3 members of the Dogs. So that is now on the card for Sunday. After this, we went to Willow Nightingale defending her TBS Championship against the CMLL Women's World Champion Persephone. This was only for the TBS title. This was Persephone's Dynamite debut. Persephone is a strong gal. She is very strong. She muscled Willow up at one point, hit a fall-away slam, and then kipped up to a big reaction as they went to a commercial break. Later on, Willow wanted a moonsault. She got it, but there was nobody home, so she splatted. And that allowed Persephone to hit a release German. Willow, though, blocked a charge. She ended up doling out one of her own. Persephone hit a lion salt for a close near fall as the ring announcer announced the 10-minute call. Is it the same thing with the TBS title? I would imagine it's the same thing. 20-minute time limit. Pretty sure it's 20. So Willow missed a corner charge. She ate a shotgun drop kick. Persephone went up top, and Willow met her up there. The two of them were jockeying for position. Persephone tried a sunset bomb. Willow held on. She did not want to go. So Persephone, she ended up getting her. She, grabbed her under the armpits as if she was going to give her a razor's edge. Either that or a crucifix bomb. Instead, Willow was able to escape, and she got a backslide, and she pinned her. She got a flash pin off of a backslide to retain her championship. Persephone couldn't believe it. She was upset. So was I. A fucking backslide. I'd be upset too. But Willow Nightingale is still your TBS champion. This was fun. I would love to see them run this back again at some point. I think the backslide finish, if nothing else, it leaves it open for that because it was hardly a decisive finish, right? She didn't beat her decisively. She left the door open for a rematch down the road. But I thought Persephone looked impressive out there. And again, she's got the dual contract. So it's not just, they have the working relationship with CMLL. And so every now and then we have a CMLL talent on the show. She's got a CMLL deal and she's got an AEW deal. Hopefully that means we get to see more of her on these shows. Obviously, we're going to see the most that you will see of her will be in CMLL. But hopefully we get to see more of her on these shows going forward. Because she, look, as fun as this match was, there's any number of women on that roster right now. And I can name 5 of them off the top of my head. If you want to throw Statlander in there, or a Jamie Hayter, or a Tekla, or a Tony Storm, up and down the list. That Persephone could work with, and that would be a lot of fun. Megan Bain. Hopefully we get the chance to see it. We had the Young Bucks and Mark Briscoe against FTR and Tommaso Ciampa. This was our main event of the evening, the in-ring main event. This did not close the show, but it was technically the main event of the evening. I would call it the party match of the night, but let's be fucking honest here, okay? Most matches on these shows, you could call them party matches, okay? They're basically, I mean, it's kind of redundant to say, oh, this is the party match of the night. They're all mostly like this. Briscoe knocked Ciampa off the apron before the opening bell. The Bucks hit double dives out onto FTR, and it was just mass chaos all over ringside before the bell even rang. Somersault cutter off the apron by Matt on Cash Wheeler. Briscoe jumped from the barricade onto Ciampa. He was setting a table up. Finally, the bell rings. Okay, so now we're officially underway. After all this insanity, now the match has officially begun. FTR hit the first part of the Powerplex. This actually just made me shake my head, right? So they have the old Power and Glory Powerplex spot, right? They've been doing it for years. So they hit the first part of it, which is the big superplex. Down goes Mark Briscoe. And so here comes Cash Wheeler for the splash. Briscoe gets the knees up, which is fine. Okay, he cut off the second part of it. But as soon as he gets the knees up, like, he's right back up, like nothing happened. Like, dude, you just got superplexed off the top rope. But he's right back up and just on to the next. It's like, gotta keep things moving. Gotta keep things moving, I guess, right? There's no time for that silly selling stuff. We just gotta keep things rolling along. It broke down into a spot fest from here. FTR wanted a spike pile driver later on Matt Jackson off the barricade outside. I think Wheeler was on the barricade, and he was going to jump off. They were going to give him a spike pile driver. Wheeler, though, got knocked off. Matt threw Dax onto the announce desk. So Harwood blasted Matt with one of the monitors that he picked up, and Wheeler ended up jumping off the guardrail with a spike pile driver onto the table, which did not break. Ciampa caught Briscoe with a running knee strike for a 2 count. He went for another one. Briscoe, though, blocked it, and he wanted a J Driller. Wheeler hit him from behind, but he hit the air raid crash, and then another running knee, and Tommaso Ciampa pins Mark Briscoe to win this match. And when it was over, Ciampa set up a bunch of chairs in the ring, and he hit Briscoe in the back with one of them. He placed him up on top, and he came off with an avalanche air raid crash through 2 tables that were seated right next to each other. And Tommaso Ciampa, along with FTR, but Tommaso Ciampa was left standing tall here in the main event of the evening, which was nice to see. I questioned when he lost that championship to Kyle Fletcher. My concern was that, okay, he's, again, one of many that Tony has signed recently, and I'm sure we'll see him on Collision, but Dynamite is still their A show. Is he just going to vanish from the show? He did there for like a couple of weeks. But it was nice to see him, because now he's heel, right? There was a heel turn, which is another reason why I like the fact that he got the win here in this match. They had to follow up in some kind of strong way, because they turned him heel on Saturday. And the way they turned him heel, I wouldn't even be surprised if this was his idea. It was like a playoff of the old memorable NXT angle with Johnny Gargano. They just replayed the angle that, they did with DIY years ago. And it's like, it was never going to be as good as the original. I don't know why you would have just tried to recreate it, but I was at least happy that they turned him heel because, he calls himself the Psycho Killer. I think Ciampa is better off as a heel anyway. So I was happy to see that. And you want to follow it up in a strong way. There's no better way to follow it up than with a win. So they did what they had to do here, and I'm sure that we're probably going to end up getting another Ciampa Briscoe match, right? He did turn on Briscoe on Saturday, and then he pinned him here. So it seems to me like a match is being set up, although nothing was announced for Sunday. I think they have enough matches for Sunday. And then as far as FTR and the Bucks, they gave you a little preview of what to expect at Revolution. I do still think we are getting a title change in that match. So they said, we're all out of commercial breaks. We can't go to commercials, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to pitch it to a video package. Probably the one that they will air on Sunday. Do they typically air? Yeah, sometimes they do, right? They air the video packages on the pay-per-views. I know WWE does, but I don't know. Sometimes AEW, they go from one match to the next and they don't have time for all the videos. This will probably be the one that they air on Sunday, though, at least on the pre-show. So we got a whole preview for MJF and Hangman and all of the events that have led up to the championship match of Revolution. So when they came back live, they had an area set up that was not in the ring. It was in the back somewhere for a press conference. And Danielson was there as the host, and he introduced us first to the challenger, Hangman Adam Page. And then he welcomed in the AEW World Champion, MJF. And he was at a podium, and they had a table on either side, and Hangman's over here, and MJF sits down over here. And I'm like, well, how's this going to go? And you could see in the front, right? They never cut to like a wide shot of like everyone who was sitting there, the press corps. But you saw some people sitting up front. This was about as legit as the WrestleMania 8 press conference when they had the room full of reporters to announce who was challenging Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8, right, for the championship. But they pitched it to actual people. So the first question, I don't know who asked the question, but is this just about the world title or is this about pure revenge? Okay, this was for Hangman. Hangman made it very clear this is about the championship. Even though MJF fucked him out of the trios titles previously, it's not about revenge. More than anything, it's about the AEW World Championship. Said and then there was another question. For someone watching AEW for the first time, and they're watching your match, a Texas death match. Now I want you to think about that. If you're someone who's never watched wrestling before, and your first exposure to wrestling is going to be a Texas death match in AEW, and you know how they do Texas death matches, you're either going to fall in love with wrestling because you are the most bloodthirsty son of a bitch in the world, or you are going to be fucking mortified and you will never watch another second of wrestling for the rest of your life. There really is no in between. You go from one extreme to the other if that's going to be your first match. It's not something I would recommend. But that was the question. For someone watching for the first time, what do you want them to leave with? MJF said he wants them to leave with the fact that he's a real professional wrestler and that he is leaving with the AEW World Championship. And Hangman said that Max is going to be leaving in an ambulance. So the next question came from Baby Huey with The Bone. That's a radio station. Say, I know that. Baby Huey. And he asked MJF about losing both of his matches last year to Hangman. MJF called him a tub of goo. He said that those wins were flukes. Hangman is out of bullets, and he will never be able to challenge for the AEW World title ever again. So then it was someone from The Ringer. I think his name was Chris, I believe. What lessons is Hangman taking away from his previous Texas death matches? And Hangman said that now again, in the midst of all of this, I could hear the crowd. They were either booing or chanting boring. They were clearly getting very restless. Because again, this was happening backstage. So they were watching on a video wall. But Hangman said that he has ended careers in Texas death. Has he? Has he? Well, I guess he has, actually. He had the match with Christopher Daniels. I guess that would be the one career that he ended in Texas death. But he said he's bringing every lesson that he has ever learned in those matches to teach MJF. And he's going to do it one drop of blood at a time. So Brian pitched it to another question. This one from Denise Salcido. This one was for Hangman. She brought up his past Texas death matches and his wins. So her question is this the convergence of all of his stories here in California? Just, the last match he had with MJF, was it the last match? They had 2 matches last year. No, I guess the last one would have been at Forbidden Door. I think the first one they had last year was in LA at Revolution, if I'm not mistaken. Although that wasn't a Texas death match. But anyway, he said it is. It's a convergence of everything. People have compared him and Max for 6 years now. And finally, they get to finish it once and for all. This year will be a replay of Revolution last year, just a lot more bloody. So then we had one more question from Christopher from Selfmade. For Hangman, if you do not win the World Championship, who are you in AEW? And Hangman just said that, well, that's not happening because I'm winning the championship. But when he said it, you could hear it in his voice. You could see it on his face. He was almost stammering over his words like he was nervous. Like he didn't fully believe what he was saying. The words were coming out of his mouth, but maybe he's not fully believing them. And MJF picked up on this and he kind of smirked. And, MJF said, well, it's obvious that you're not winning and you're never going to be able to challenge for the title ever again. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to celebrate. And he called somebody over and this person hands him 2 beers and 2 red Solo cups. And he gets up and he goes, Hangman, we're going to toast to you never again challenging for the AEW World title. And as he walks over towards Hangman, he smacks one of the beers out of his hand, one of the cups. MJF takes the other cup and he splashes it in his face. And so here we go. Here we go. And they start fighting. Danielson just backs as far away from this as he possibly can. And they brawl off somewhere. And again, this was clearly staged in like the area right behind the screens and the stage and the curtain. It might have been in the lobby, like right behind that. Because they soon brawled out into the arena, more specifically into the crowd. And they're fighting through the fans. And one of the security guys gets pulled in by MJF as Hangman is about to throw a punch. And he decks the security guy by accident, so down he goes. So they wound up in the ring. Hangman mounts him with punches, but security pours out all these security goofs. They hit the ring to break them up. Hangman punches each one of them out. While this is happening, MJF is down in the corner and you could see him putting the Dynamite Diamond ring on his finger. And after Hangman has knocked down all of the security goofs, MJF gets up. He charges at him like he's going to hit him with the ring. But he gets scooped up and Hangman drops him on his head with a dead eye. So Hangman goes under the ring. He pulls out a barbed wire board just to give you a little taste of what we can expect on Sunday. And he leaves the board lying on the ground outside. He goes in the ring. He brings MJF out onto the apron. And he picks him up like he's going to give him a dead eye. He's going to give this guy a dead eye off the apron down onto the barbed wire board. MJF realizes this and says, you ain't going to do that to me. And so he's able to escape and he scampers off through the crowd. And that is how they went off the air. That was their final tease for the World Championship match. Their final hot, big sell to the audience was a press conference. By the way, how are you going to have a press conference on this show and Dave Meltzer is in the building and you don't have Dave Meltzer asking a question during the press conference? How are you going to do that? What question would Dave have? Let's all have an exercise in the chat. If Dave was allowed one question during the press conference, what would his question be? I want the best answers. The best answers only. This didn't work. I appreciate them trying something different for a change. Instead of just having, I guess a regular face-to-face, honestly. Compared to what they did here, it would have been no better and no worse. And it would have resulted in exactly the same pull-apart brawl, but at least it would have been in front of the fans and you wouldn't have had people chanting boring. They tried something different. It didn't work. Don't do this again. You want to do a press conference, that's fine, but you don't do it in the kind of the go home segment here on the final Dynamite before your big pay-per-view. There are other ways to go about doing stuff like this, and this ain't it. This ain't it. This was a swing and a miss is what this was. As far as the rest of the show goes, again, you got some good wrestling. Excellent match again between Kyle Fletcher and Mike Bailey. Those guys bring it every single time. They they bring out the best in each other. I enjoyed the women's match. To me, those are the two best parts of the show for me. And the rest of it was just kind of there. They didn't do a whole hell of a lot that was any different than probably they've done over the last week or two. It was a lot of similarities in some of the stuff that they did. So they didn't really move the needle too much for me on Revolution. There's some really strong matches on paper that are on that card. I think it's going to be a really good pay-per-view. I just can't say that tonight's show is any great shakes. But speaking of that pay-per-view, let's talk about this updated card here, because we now have what I assume... I shouldn't even say that, because I know the way Tony operates. He'll probably add something else. We'll probably get one or two more things added to the fucking 0 hour. But for the time being, this is the up-to-date complete card here for Revolution. Ricochet, not on the show tonight, but he will not be on the Revolution main card either. He's on the pre-show. Ricochet is defending the national championship against 20 other men. It's a 21-man blackjack battle royal. We have not had one of these in about 3 years, I believe, since Double or Nothing 2023. The only other person we know in this battle royal is Tommaso Ciampa. We do not know the names of anyone else. Maybe Big Boom AJ of the Costco guys will end up in there. We don't know anybody else in the battle royal. So it's kind of hard to make a prediction here, but I'm going to say Ricochet retains. I don't see him losing the title. Now, also added to the 0 hour, Willow Nightingale is going to be putting her TBS Championship on the line against Lena Cross, who just debuted. I don't know that she did she wrestle on Collision? Maybe she did. If she's had a match, she's had one. But then again, Persephone got a TBS title match, so it kind of doesn't matter. Mark Briscoe lost the TNT Championship to Tommaso Ciampa in Ciampa's first match in AEW. They don't have rankings anymore. So anybody can get a title shot at any given time. It don't matter. So Lena Cross is going to go in there and get a TBS title match against Willow. And I hear this and I'm like, would they do a title change here? I don't think they should. I think she should lose the tag belts before she loses the TBS title. Now, if she was wrestling Megan Bayne, I would feel different, because then I would do a title change. With Lena Cross, I wouldn't do it yet. So I was picking Willow to win this match, and I'm sticking with that. But then we got the announcement that will not be the only time we see Willow and Lena wrestling on Sunday. Because not only are they having a singles match on the pre-show, they have been added to the main card as well. And Willow and Harley Cameron are going to be defending their tag team titles against Lena Cross and Megan Bayne. So these two women are going to be pulling double duty on Sunday. And in that case, we need a title change. We need those tag team titles to come over to Megan Bayne and Lena Cross. And I fully believe 110% that had Penelope Ford not gotten hurt a few weeks ago, the tag belts would already be on Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. Instead, Penelope's going to be out for a while. Tony Khan had an update the other day, and her injury is worse than they expected. So it's going to be many weeks, if not months, he said, before we see her back in the ring again. So thankfully for them, they had associated Lena Cross with the two of them. You just sub her in there for Penelope. Put the belts on the two of them. There's no reason not to. I still don't know why Willow has two belts. So we're going to get new tag team champions on Sunday. We have Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong against David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Clark Connors. This should be a win for the Dogs. Again, they're just trying to get this crew established. There's no reason for them to lose this match. They won tonight. They should win on Sunday as well. Timeless Tony Storm one-on-one with Marina Shafir. Everyone is banned from ringside. The conglomeration, the Death Riders, no one is allowed at ringside. This will be a win for Timeless Tony Storm. Konosuke Takeshita, Jon Moxley, AEW Continental Championship, no time limit. When they had their first match in Australia, they went to a time limit draw. I was hoping for a title change there. We didn't get it. But it felt like they're going to have to run this back. Well, here we are. Now we have to get a winner, right? There's no bullshit here. Someone's winning and someone's losing, and the person who wins should be Konosuke Takeshita. So he gets his hands on that Continental title, and you use that to further the issues with him and Okada. Okada, as soon as he wins a championship, because he's been mocking Takeshita, like, I have a belt, Kyle has a belt, even fucking Mark Davis has a belt. You know who doesn't have a belt? Takeshita. Well, now Takeshita will have a belt, and that's not going to sit well with Okada. And so you could just kind of go from there. Takeshita should win that title. Takeshita needs to win this match. Jon Moxley's been going out there every week on television. He's wrestling everybody. He's been going down the line, every member of this fucking family. Even El Clone, Mark Davis, up and down the line, Josh Alexander. It's time. It's time. It's time to take this title, this useless title. Useless though it may be, at least they could further the story here with these other two and put it on Konosuke Takeshita. We have Kazuchika Okada, speaking of which, who not only is the international champion, he is 1/3 of the trios champions, tagging with Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis to defend those trios titles against Kevin Knight, Mike Bailey, and Mystico. Why? Because it's Mystico. And Tony Khan says, hey, if I can get Mystico on my show, I want him on my show. Okay. It's literally the only real thing to say about Mystico's involvement in this match. At least there is story and bad blood with Jet Speed and the Callis family. But again, Mystico being thrown in there, he's literally just being thrown into the match. You know, Hangman was their partner. Hangman's a little busy on Sunday. We need a replacement. Hey, let's call Mystico. Okay. They're not winning. Callis family is holding on to these titles. They just won them. They just won these titles. I would be sad for Mark Davis as quickly as he got a belt if they took it away from him. So for Mark Davis's sake, let's give him a little more time with the belt. So then we have Tekla defending her AEW Women's World Championship against the former champion Chris Statlander. This will be 2 out of 3 falls. I'm going with Tekla to retain. Brody King and Swerve Strickland one-on-one has got to be a win for Swerve. Swerve is the one who's being built up, either for the rematch with Kenny Omega, World Championship match with MJF, or Hangman. I suppose it's possible. Either way, you got to give him the win here. Andrade El Idolo, one-on-one with Bandito. There's no story here. There's no story here, but it's going to be a kick-ass match. And I think Andrade is going to pick up the win. FTR puts the AEW World Tag Team titles on the line against the Young Bucks. I still feel like we're going to get a title change here. I'm going with the Bucks for the win. And perhaps we will get the return of Copeland and Christian. And they will play some sort of role here, and we'll circle back around to them in FTR. Only without the belts on the line. And then in the main event, MJF puts the AEW World Championship on the line. Texas Death against Hangman Adam Page. If Hangman loses, he can never again challenge for the AEW World title. At least not until he wins the Casino Gauntlet. MJF is not losing this title. I know they want you to believe that Hangman is going to win. He's not going to win. I think MJF is retaining, and I believe, a very good chance, that Swerve Strickland is going to factor into the finish here. I think he is looking for clear road to get back to the championship. He already took out Kenny Omega. Now he has the chance to take out Hangman for good. And he will have a clear path to MJF in that world title. This alliance with him and Hangman is going to be short-lived. I think he plays a role in this in some way. I do. But either way, MJF is going to win. So that's the card. We'll see if they add 1 more, 2 more. I think they're taping Collision tonight to air on Saturday, so we'll find out. And I am planning on being live. So when this pay-per-view is over on Sunday night at God knows what hour, I'll be live with you on YouTube and we'll talk about Revolution. So that's coming up on Sunday. You get 2 podcasts on Sunday. Get episode 955 of The Sound Off earlier in the day, and then you get your Revolution review at night. See? Look at that. Aren't you excited? Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. What did you think of Dynamite in San Jose? 60% thumbs up for tonight's show and roughly 40% thumbs down. 60-40 split for Dynamite tonight. Get those votes in on X at Solomonster is the place to go. Let's take a look at your super chats here. I thank those of you who have dropped one. I do appreciate it. It's a very slow night. We are not hitting the goal for Be the Booker. I believe the goal was 520, right? 520, 530. I think it was 530. Yeah, we're about 200 likes off. So it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So I'll try to get you out of here. Joseph Stewart, happy Wednesday to you, my friend. As you know, I'm a big MOTU fan, so of course I'm going to buy on that. And The Sopranos over The Godfather. Kate Winslet has been cast as the female lead in The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum. I can't wait to not watch it. I didn't make it to the end of the first one. I fell asleep. So I never watched the other 2. Or The Hobbit or any of the other spin-offs that there may have been, so I can't say I have any interest in it. If you do, I hope it's at least a quality film, but I will not be seeing it. I got at least 5 movies I'm interested in seeing this year, and that ain't one of them. Although I guess if she was just cast, I guess it's not coming out this year. Daniel Craig reportedly turned down the role of Christopher Dent, Harvey Dent's father, in The Batman Part 2. You mean James Bond turned down the role of Christopher Dent? He was in a good movie many years ago called Layer Cake. Should check that out. Have you seen the movie Practical Magic with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock? I have not. Have you seen the Sandra Bullock movie Miss Congeniality? Yes, I have. The movie Soap Dish, never heard of it. A Bug's Life. No, I never saw Bug's Life. Never did. Joseph, thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Hey, Oscar. I did get your message before. I guess thank you for the heads up. And as far as I know, that account is not following me, but it has been blocked. So thank you. The Shoulder Demon. There's too many bald wrestlers in AEW. Any more of this, and I may have to show up next week, break shoulders, and make them humble. Well, if there's one thing that AEW certainly does not need more of, it is injuries. So please, Shoulder Demon, do not do that. Chicago for MBK, Fletcher and Speedball had a mellow Dragunov vibe. Hey, some guys just click. You know, they just click in the ring. Corey Blake. Hey, Corey, thank you for the 20. I appreciate that. Hey, Solo, today is my 40th birthday. I wanted to ask you, besides John Cena, who had the best back-to-back years in the Ruthless Aggression era? My choice is Randy Orton in 2004 and 2005. Would you agree? I would not agree. I would not agree. My choice would be Brock Lesnar, 2002 and 2003. That is the correct answer. Randy Orton, he had a good back-to-back, but he didn't have a Brock Lesnar back-to-back. But thank you, Corey. We got Dev to Dust. I showed you to one of my friends. He says you sound like the baseball/football commentator Joe Buck. Well, I think I'm more generally interesting and exciting than Joe Buck. Joe Buck's been doing this for a very long time. I appreciate the comparison, but I don't know. I think I'm a little more exciting than Joe Buck. And Arabian Night Solid episode match-wise, but 0 in-ring promo segments hyping pay-per-view matches. Also, why 12 matches on Sunday? Especially with Mox and Takeshita going long, 1 a.m. finish. Well, if that happens, we're just going to shut this shit down and I ain't going live. Even I have my limits. Why 12 matches? Because it's AEW, dude. Like, they can't help themselves. Of course, it's every now and then, or a big show like All In or something, okay, fine. But, I mean, they do this shit all the time. Nobody should be surprised by this. But yeah, again, like, they tried that with the press conference as far as a promo segment, and it didn't hit. It just didn't work. And then you had all these, you had these matches up and down the card that were very fast paced and everything, but it would have benefited by having, like you said, some more promo related stuff to really drive home, some of the stories or some of the issues between some of the parties involved. And that just really wasn't there. And David Wilson, Layer Cake is in fact very underrated. Good film. Good soundtrack too. Yeah, go check that out. I don't remember what year that came out. I want to say that was actually right before he became Bond. I don't know if that's the film that got him noticed. But I think it might have come right before he was cast to be James Bond. Oh, man. The angelic voice of Solomonster. The voice from above. Oh, hey, never know. You get to the pearly gates. I might be the voice that you hear. Hopefully you won't find out for a while. Anyway, next time I'm going to be live with you will be on Friday. We'll be talking SmackDown. Wow, it's another Friday the 13th. Back-to-back months. That doesn't happen very often. But that's when I'll see you live for the SmackDown review. Again, if you did not already listen to it, the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. You got yourself almost 90 minutes of audio that you can kill some time with tomorrow. Let's go head over to the Ariel Helwani Show feed, wherever you get your podcast from. And of course, Sound Off episode 955 already being worked on for this weekend. Already checking out and collecting all the news of the week. And get those mailbag questions in, the solomonster@gmail.com. Always love hearing from you guys. That's it. That's all I got for you. In and out. We'll try to hit the goal on Friday. We failed. We failed tonight. Hopefully we'll pick ourselves back up on Friday. Be well. Stay safe. And I will see you back here for the SmackDown post show and more live sound off here on YouTube as we climb towards 91K. Hit that like button on your way out. I'll see you on Friday. Oh my. Ooh la la.